Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome for joining us here for Bloomerang Academy. Today's session it's about using event tracking in Bloomerang, and it is turning interactions into engagement, and that's where we're going to focus. We just, we're going to show you how to use event forms in Bloomerang to make sure you are keeping track of your constituents' engagement in your organization. But we want to talk a little bit about why. This is my email address, ron.newlin@bloomerang.co. It's not .com, it's .co. It's not a typo. That's what we got. The reason I'm sharing this, among other reasons, is I just want you to be able to follow up with me. Please do write down this email address. Let me know, and I'll be happy to send you the notes. So here's the agenda of what we're doing today. First of all, I'm going to really quickly discuss what is meant by and what affects what we call the engagement meter on each of your donors' profiles, because everything we do today is going to be affecting that. Then we're going to talk about creating a couple of different types of custom fields for tracking your constituents' participation in your special events, whether those are paid events or free events. You got a great opportunity with Bloomerang to be able to keep track of who's coming, who's demonstrating that they have a deeper interest in your organization by their involvement. And so we're going to create some interaction-based custom fields and some transaction-based custom fields that will affect your organization's events that are paid events, like golf tournaments and galas and things like that. We are going to build together today an event form for a paid event, a gala or a golf tournament. We are also going to build an event form for a free event, which is done using a different tool in Bloomerang, because paid events collect money and therefore are transaction forms, just like a donation form is. Whereas a free event does not collect money, and so we're going to use the constituent information form to show you how to do that. And finally, at the very end, I'm going to show you how to take the results of an event and update everybody's records using the import function. So you don't have to, you have a great event, you have 300 people come to it. You don't want to go into Bloomerang and look up 300 people one at a time and add a new interaction to their record. So we're going to show you how to do that with an Excel spreadsheet and an import that can probably do this for you in 10 minutes instead of 10 hours. So that's what we're going to try to cover today. And with that, let me get out of my slides and get into Bloomerang. So what you're seeing here is my sample donor database, where I keep track of all of the things that I set up as samples and demonstrations. And I've got all kinds of real and imaginary people in here with all kinds of almost all imaginary donations, etc. First thing I want to show you, though, before we get in, before we create a couple of forms and create a couple of custom fields, I want to talk a little bit about, look up any single one of your constituents. So we'll look up me. We'll look up Ron Newlin. And what you're going to see here on the right-hand side of every one of your constituents' records is something called an engagement level, which is going to show you whether people are cold, cool, hot, warm, hot, or on fire in terms of their involvement with your organization. You'll also see here I'm deceased. Well, actually, reports of my death are greatly exaggerated, just like Mark Twain. I was probably demonstrating to somebody how to mark somebody deceased, and I used myself. The point is, every one of your constituents is going to have this little box in their upper right-hand corner. And what Bloomerang is tracking here for you It is the number and the frequency and the quality of their interactions with your organization. It's got nothing to do with their giving history. Well, I shouldn't say it's nothing to do with their giving history. If they give frequently, giving frequently matters. But it's not talking about how much they give. What it's talking about is how often they take it upon themselves to interact with your organization. So what we're really tracking here is, and what Bloomerang does is keeps track not only of how often they give, but also how often, if you send mass emails to them in Bloomerang, how often they open those emails, and whether or not they actually read the email and click through a hyperlink to the next. If you've got a mass email that is talking about a great new article about your organization that just came out in the New York Times, and you've linked to that New York Times article, if somebody's clicked on that, that's going to move their engagement level up. We're also keeping track. Do they come to your events? And this is where what we're talking about today is making sure that Bloomerang knows they come to your events, because that's the type of thing. Bloomerang can track if they open your emails or not, but Bloomerang has no idea whether they said yes and came to an event or not. And so we're going to be talking today about how showing those, how to keep track of those things so that you can see among all of your constituents which are the ones that, not only which ones are giving, that's obviously the first thing you want to see, and you've got all kinds of reports on that, but you want to be able to see, okay, who is really actively engaged? Because those are the people who you can reach back out to, get them more involved. They're going to be great volunteers. They may be a great board member. And those are the ways you get folks turning into from $100 a year donors to $1,000 a year donors. So everything we're doing today is going to hopefully be helping you do a better job of identifying the folks in your database whose engagement level should go from cold or cool to hot or better. So next thing I want to do really quickly here is talk about creating some custom fields that you'll be able to use later as we use Bloomerang to invite people to come to your events. Before you plan your event, let's kind of go old school for a second here. If you were going, if you didn't have, if this was, 20 years ago, and you didn't have Bloomerang, or you didn't have a database of any kind, if you were having an event like perhaps a gala or a banquet, you would use direct mail to market it. But you would still want to be able to collect as, so you would be creating a letter that included a response vehicle where people could tell you, yes, I'm coming. It's going to include a return envelope and a response vehicle. And what they're going to do is they're going to use that return envelope to send you a check and a response vehicle that tells them, here's who I am, here's who's coming, and what's the information you want on that. So anything that you would have wanted on that piece of paper that you would have produced as a return response vehicle 30 years ago, you would also want to be able to have as a custom field in Bloomerang. So if we were just doing a free event, for example, you'd want to create custom interaction fields. So in Bloomerang, you have the opportunity to create custom fields, and I've got a bunch here. The last time I taught a class, I was talking about major gift cultivation. I had created a category for that. I've also got a category down here for special events. Something that's nice to know is that you can drag and drop these things. So if, for the next 2 weeks you're more interested in working on your special event than on your major gifts, you can just drag and drop your special event fields up to the top. If you don't have anything in Bloom, if you have not created any custom fields yet, then the way you start is to create a new category, blue button here, call that category whatever you want. We'll call this for now my new special event category. We'll save that. Within my new special event category, then, you may want to be creating some new fields, one of which might be event attendance status. So if you're going to be sending out 1,000 invitations to an event, you may want to be able to record as people write back in a field that collects text. And you don't really want to say yes or of course, or you want to limit the different types of answers that can be here. So people's response to an invitation to an event is going to be one value from a list. And that value we'll go down here. One of them could be attending, and one could be new value, not attending, or actually something you might want to do here is to say, and rather than attending, let's open this back up and say RSVP'd yes. And then let's turn not attending to RSVP'd. Come on, open it back up again. RSVP'd no. And then you might have a third one. Not only did they RSVP'd, but they actually did attend. And then maybe a fourth one for people who RSVP'd, but were no-shows. These are the types of things, after the fact you may want to be able to record if you have a big event. You go to all the effort. A year from now, who knows who came and who didn't. You want to use Bloomerang to help you be able to tell next year's organizers who came, who didn't, who said they were coming, etc. So that would be how you would create some custom interaction fields for events. These will be useful whether you're doing a paid event or a non-paid event. But also, while I'm doing this, I want to show you how to create some custom interaction or some custom transaction fields for paid events. So the very thing I got here at the very top is, let's say I've already created this. I've done this class before. So essentially, if you were creating a let's talk old school. We don't have the internet yet. We don't have online giving forms. You're doing a direct mail with a envelope for them to send back a card that tells you who's coming. What do you want on that card? Well, you want their name and their address and all those things, and that's all going to be built into. You've already got that built into Bloomerang. But the other thing specific to this event that you want is, how many tickets are they buying? Now, table number is not something that you're going to, that you would be letting them name. You may, as you build this, as you plan your event, you may want to assign table numbers, but that's not something you want on the form. That's not what we would say donor facing. Now, you may, however, want them to be able to tell you the names of their guests. So if they were buying a table, if you were buying a table, you may want, it would be great if they would tell you. Now, often an organization is going to buy a table. They're going to buy a table, and they're going to spend up until the day of the event getting 8 people to say, come, please go represent us tonight at this event. In other cases, you're selling a table to somebody who really, really loves your organization. They're a board member. They've told you at the outset, I am bringing my wife and these other 3 couples who are going to be great supporters, and they're going to tell you their names as soon as they buy the table. You also could have multiple choices here for, not only, you could have one big field where people are typing in 8 names, or you could create 8 separate fields where you collected the name and a meal choice for each individual member of the table. Depends on how much work you want to ask your donors to do, because like I said, if most of your tables are bought by corporations, they're probably going to be waiting for a while before they know who's coming. But if you are an organization where most of your donors are individuals, and at the time they buy the table, they've already decided who they're going to be inviting, then you might want to be able to create a new field for each one. Come on. Guest number 3 name, which would be a field that contains text where obviously you're going to type the information in. And you may have, we've seen here, guest number 1's name. Maybe you're going to do meal choice too. So in this case, you might want to create for guest number 2 a field that said guest number 2 meal. And here, once again, the type of data that goes in here is text. But here, you're going to not just let them type it in. You're going to create a list from which they're going to pick one value. We'll save it. And now, see, what are those values? Well, those values are chicken, vegetarian, and I've jumped ahead here. I've not given you my punchline for my joke here, but so I'm doing all this in Ron's demo database, where I stuck an extra N on the end of it to make it Ron's Demon database, and so everything we're going to see from here on out has all kinds of Buffy the Vampire Slayer jokes in it. So we're going to have the third option for meal is brains. Yeah, Maria, you're going to see this in the next few minutes here. So this is how you would create the custom fields. That even if you didn't have Bloomerang, even if you didn't have the internet, this is the type of information that you might want to be collecting in the old school on, with people sending you back information, for how much, what they bought, how many people they were bringing, their names of the people. This is the type of things that you would want to have fields for on a blank paper form. You also want fields for these if you want to collect this information on a Bloomerang form. So having built some of those things, and in a minute I'm going to come back, or in a few minutes here I'm also going to show you an example of doing this for golf tournaments, where you've got some different things. But let's save this. And now let's create a couple of event forms. So first let's create, like I said, I like to think through this the way I had to think through it back before the back before the internet, when I had to do all this stuff on paper. But now that I've got the questions that I would put on a paper form, I want to put those in an online form. And the way you do that is you go in Bloomerang down your left-hand column of fields. The bottom one is Settings. The gear icon is Settings, and that's where you go to select Website Integration. And here's where you would create an online giving form or a paid event registration form. That's what we're going to use next. And before we're done here, I'm also going to use the constituent information form to show you how to set up a form for a free event, because a paid event registration form is going to be collecting a transaction. It's going to force your donors to not only fill out the form, but at some point then give you their credit card number and tell you how much money they're giving, and the money's in your bank account immediately, which is what you want. But what I want to do here, so let's create an event registration form. And in my sample database, you'll see that I've got several in here already. And we've been, you've been talking about a gala, so let's open up the gala. No, let's not open up. Let's start from scratch. So we'll start from scratch. We're going to be creating a new one. I've done a couple of galas. We can call this my third gala, Gala Form 3. If you're taking this class, you've probably already set up an online donation form, which means you've got a transaction processor. I'm set up with Stripe. Bloomerang will let you set up. We work with Stripe and with Authorize.net. We also, in the past, have worked with BluePay, and we've grandfathered all of our BluePay customers. But essentially, if you don't have a transaction processor yet, you go to Settings, View All Settings, Transactions, Transaction Processors, New. And then you will be walked through the process of creating a processor that allows your Bloomerang forms to work for you and to put money in your account instantaneously. None of these things cost any money outright. They make their money by charging you a small percentage of each donation. If you're a nonprofit organization, like all of you likely are, then you're going to be paying not the typical 2.9 or 3% charge per transaction. Both Stripe and Authorize.net have nonprofit rates, so you'll be paying about 2.2% per transaction. Back up again here. So we're in website integration. Then we're creating an event form. As I mentioned, this is going to be, for my purposes, this is my third different gala form. It's going to give you the opportunity. So once you set this form up, anybody who gives is going to automatically be thanked as soon as they give. Whether you create a thank you letter or email or not, Bloomerang is going to automatically create a default email that says, thank you for your gift to your organization's name on this date in the amount of X. It's going to be black text on a white background. But you can also create your own acknowledgement emails. Now, as I told you, my database is, they set it up and called it Ron's Demo Database, so I stuck an extra in there to make it Ron's Demon Database. And so my special event is called the Monsters Ball. And I've got a Monsters Ball confirmation email, so I'm going to click that. Every time somebody registers, I'm going to get an email If you want more than one person in your organization to be notified every time a gift comes in, just click Add Email here. One of my colleagues in my fantasy database is Inigo Montoya. So I want to make sure he gets one too. Yep, I don't need to add another one. That's all I've got to do. Now here's where you will go down and you've got the opportunity. This is optional. You have the opportunity to give all of your donors the a chance to click a button that says, thank you for your support. As you no doubt know, 2.5% of your gift is directed to transaction fees. If you'd like to make an additional donation to offset those fees, click here. And that means if somebody's giving you a $300 contribution and they click that, what's going to hit their credit card is going to be about $309, $307.30, and what's going to hit your bank account is $300. Instead of them having their credit card, their bank account show a $300 debit, your bank account showing a $273 donation, and the other $7 goes to the credit card company, and that's fine. That's how they make their money. They're providing a great service. But if you want to add that, that's how you do it. True Impact. And here's where you would give the organization a name. 2019 Monsters Ball. And here's then where you would talk about the different ways to register. So maybe what I would have a table sponsorship, which cost, let's say, $1,000. And it's, what you get that is a table for 8, plus a program ad. The tickets, a table gets that person 8 tickets. Now those tickets are, here's where because this is a special event, when you are doing special event fundraising, and giving people a meal and or a take-home swag bag for the event, you've got to tell them how much of their donation actually wasn't tax deductible because they were buying a meal for it. So it's not uncommon maybe for a meal with some wine to cost $40 per person. So this table of 8, even though the check was for $1,000, $320 of it is non-deductible. And then you also may want to be able to let people buy a single ticket. So if 8 people can come for $1,000, we're charging them $125 a piece. Single ticket's $150. Gives you 1 ticket. $40 of that is non-deductible. And then maybe you also want people, again, thinking through this, if this is old school, you're writing this out as a piece of paper that they can fill out and send back to you in an envelope. If it's online, you want them to be able to have all these choices. So maybe what they want, you got people who can't come, but they want to buy a $250 program ad. No tickets for that. It's 100% deductible. You also have the opportunity, just like up above, where we gave folks the opportunity to use True Impact to offset your registration fee. You can also say, how about you say, give them the option to say, I can't attend I'm sorry I can't attend. I really hate to miss it, but here's $100. Or to say, I'm coming by myself. I'm a very lonely person, and I really wish I had a date, but I want to give you an extra $50 because I'm only coming by myself. And so you can give those things there. And then down here is where you could add some of those additional fields we already created. So for instance, here's where we would add the fields for the number of tickets. So somebody might be, you're going to know this if somebody's buying one, somewhere between 1 and 8. But here's where you may want to say, let's take a look here. The names of their guests. So here's where somebody could be saying, I'm going to be buying, I'm not buying a whole table, I'm buying 4 tickets. And here are my names of my 3 guests. Or maybe they're buying a table, and they're going to use, they'll just type 8 in here, and then they will give you the list, the names of all 7 of their guests. And if you really, really, really want to get really deep into this, then here's where you go ahead and create where did I put all these things? Your guest number 1 name and your guest number 1 meal choice and all those things that we talked about creating custom fields for. And you save that. Your next page says, okay, every time you create an online giving form, an online event form, it's going to create, Bloomerang is going to create a new appeal for you. That's our recommendation, is that each of your events have their own appeal. So if you don't want it to have its own appeal, you can change it. But essentially, we want you. We're gonna, we're gonna prompt you to create a new appeal for each one of your gifts. And typically most organizations, nonprofit organizations, their fundraising events are unrestricted, unless they specifically say this banquet is to support our scholarship program. But essentially, you will decide whether you want this event to be unrestricted revenue that supports your mission however you need it, or whether you want it to go to some particular library or scholarship program, whatever. And then if you want to, you can say, this is part of our, typically I think most special events are part of how you meet your annual budget. And so, you may want to say that your campaign for this is, along with our spring appeal and our year-end appeal and our membership program and our golf tournament, these are the 5 things that's how we meet our annual budget. And you'll save all those things and go to next. The next page you see is this is what we call your success page. This is not an email. This is what your donor sees on their computer screen after they hit submit. So the default is going to say, thank you for your registration. Your registration for our event has been successfully processed. We look forward to seeing you. Or you can say whatever else you want to, or you can customize this. Your registration for the 2019 Monsters Ball has been, we look forward to seeing you there. Don't forget, to wear your cape, because we're all vampires. All right, and then down here, these are kind of set as defaults. Let's kind of set it, if you have if you're set up so that you've got a Twitter account and a Facebook account in Bloomerang, this is going to let people, as soon as they register, say they're going to be able to, the next thing they do after on this page, when they see the thank you, they'll have the opportunity to say, I just registered for the Monsters Ball, and hit that and send that to Twitter. Since my database isn't set up to do that, I'm just going to turn those off so I can now save and preview. The next thing you'll see is kind of a quick idea of what the form looks like. $1,000 table sponsorship, $150 single ticket dinner for one. They click on that. And the information that they need to, that we want them to fill out, number of tickets, guest names. I didn't want them, So then what you could do, you can either publish this. When you hit publish, you get this snippet of code. Highlight it, drag your cursor on it, Control Copy. Go to your website. My website is on Yola. Oh, come on. Sonia, okay, I see your question. Right now, it's a good question, and we've been asked it before. It's something that we're considering how to do, but right now, no, there is not a limit in Bloomerang. So what you're going to need to do is just kind of, when you get an event coming up, kind of run a daily report and just keep track. And when you get down to your last 5 or 10 tickets, turn your form off. That's where we are right now. But essentially, what I'm demonstrating here, I've just copied that snippet of code. I am in my Bloomerang. So Pat's got a question here. Personal info is address. Well, your forms are going to require them to enter their name and address and email to make sure that you're not creating a duplicate. So in that case, if they're already in your if they're already in your database, then filling this form out is going to add this record to their existing record and not create a duplicate. On the other hand, if they're not in your database, then by the fact that the form is going to require them to put in their address and their email address, that's going to create a record for them. So I think that's kind of what you want out of that question, Pat. If not, contact me afterwards. So essentially, here's my database. I'm going to go to my events page, where you can see what's in here right now is a 2017 golf outing. I'm going to edit my golf outing. When I edit it, what you'll see, all of that form that you just saw was created by this little snippet of code that I'm going to delete. And I'm going to replace that by hitting Control V and pasting in that snippet of code that we just copied out of Bloomerang. And we'll publish. And now if we go back and look at the site, we'll see if we go to my events page. What we see now is, I should have changed this instead of golf. You got your register securely through Bloomerang button. When you click that button, you'll see here's my demon database, my Buffy the Vampire Slayer branding image. And here's where we are registering people now for the Monsters Ball. Where their choices are $1,000 for a table or a single ticket, they click that, And that gives them the choice to, oh, no, I don't want one, I want 3. So, 3 tickets for $450. And then I would fill out the rest of I'd fill out my name and everything else. I could give, I bought 3 tickets. My guest names are Sally Hardgrove and Grant Newlin. I'm not a robot. And then it's going to ask me for my credit card information. And that's how you, well, it's not going to, all these things are required. I've got to fill out name and address to submit the record, so I'm not going to go through all of that. I just, but that's, so that's essentially how your forms are going to work. And then everybody's donation, not only is their donation into Bloomerang, but so is their, everything else that they put in there about their guests' names and stuff like that. 1:47 here in the Eastern Time Zone. I want to finish this up in the next 13 minutes because you've got busy things to do, and so do I. And we're on good time. I've got 2 more things to do. I want to show you an interaction. How do you get a photo on the registration page? All right, I can show that really quick. You go to Settings, View All Settings, Website Integration, Form Settings. And there's where you can upload your logo or anything else you want. It's also where you can add what we call an external CSS style sheet, which I really don't have a whole lot of time to get into. That's essentially it's a snippet of code out of your own website design. And if you don't know what it is yourself, whoever designed your website will be able to very quickly show you how to go to your website and copy and paste a few lines of code that then you paste that here. And what that's going to do is going to make your online form that's still hosted in Bloomerang. It's going to adopt the fonts and the colors of your website, and so people are probably not going to know when they leave your website unless they're reading this URL up here. They're not going to know that they've left your website to bloomerang.co. So the other thing I want to show really quickly, though, while we're here in Settings, let's say we want to do a free event. So a free event, you don't want a transaction. No one's paying any money. So you would use the constituent information form. And here I've got a Bram Stoker lecture. This is, since this is Buffy's Demon database, let's go ahead and create a new form. I'm going to, this isn't a paid event. This is just something that I want my constituents to be able to come to. So here I'm going to create one for the Stephen King lecture, another master of horror. And you can either not send them a confirmation, or you can create your own customized confirmation email. Once again, anytime somebody says they're coming, I'm going to get an email. If I want somebody else to get that email, just add the plus. And down here is where you would call the form the Stephen King lecture, the purpose of which is a special event. And this is where you want to be able to, after you've sent the invitation out, as people respond, you want to be able to keep track of who's coming, because the people that come are kind of showing you their kind of extra interest in your organization. So here's where you may want to say, how many people are they bringing? And names of the guests. Same thing as we did with the other one. There's no money involved, but you want to be able to be keeping track of who all's coming. So we'll go to next. Same thing. You got the opportunity for a success page. We don't have any default language in here because your events can be all over the board. But you may want to say here, thank you for registering for the Stephen King lecture. And then, this is what then something like, we'll see you on the 15th. And here's, make sure to park in the green lot, because the red lot will be eaten by monsters. And here's once again, you've got to turn these, unless you're set up to be using Facebook and Twitter, I just turn these things off. So that's what the form looks like. The form's just saying, what's your name, what's your email address, what's your phone number. The asterisk means it's required. Phone is optional. If somebody wants to give you their phone number, that's great. But if they don't, you don't want that to be required, because that is the #1 killer of people filling out online forms, is giving you their telephone number. So, and then they'll fill out their address, and then they will say, I'm going to bring 3 guests, and they are. And then submit. All right, one more thing I want to cover really quickly, and that is, so you've done one of these events. You've advertised one of, it's not even done yet. You've advertised one of these events. You've sent out mailings. You've got people sending you back RSVPs through the mail, and they are just emailing you because you invited them to do that, and they're filling out one of your online forms. All this data is coming in. How do you want to keep track of all of that as it comes in? Real quick, matching criteria, we match exact name, last name has to be an exact match. Email address has to be an exact match. Telephone numbers have to be an exact match if they've got one. And then first names and street addresses are kind of fuzzy matches, which means that essentially what that means is Bloomerang knows that Bob Smith and Robert Smith may be the same person. So we're not going to create a duplicate record if we get a Bob Smith at 123 Main Street when we've already got a Robert Smith at 123 Main Street. That's kind of how it works. So really quickly, what I'd like to do is, let's pretend I had just sent, I'm going to create a report really quickly here. Let's say I had created an event, and I had done a print mailing of that event to every individual constituent in my database. Didn't send it to my corporation, so I'm going to exclude constituents where the type is organization. All right, so I got 351 individuals in my database, including both Gomez and Morticia Adams. Because I've not done it by household, I've done it by individual, but that's what I want for this particular report. I may have sent the email out. I may have sent out all my communications, one per household. But as responses come in, I want to be able to track them by individual. So, having sent the invitations out, now what I want to do is take this report listing everybody who got it, which is everybody who's not an organization. I'm going to save and export this report to Excel. And I'm going to call this the 2019 Monster Ball Invite List. I'm going to download it, open it up. So what I've got here is an alphabetical list of everybody who got this invitation. And it's alphabetical. And I've got the street address, which is useful. I don't necessarily maybe want all these things. But I'm not going to waste any time messing around with it. What I'm going to do here is I'll just minimize all these little windows. Bloomerang always download, anytime you run a report, we're always going to give you the account number of the person, which is really, really important because we're going to use this report now to turn around and, to turn around and import back in to Bloomerang the day after the event is over, who came. So essentially, what we're going to be using this, what we're going to do with this is, I would save this spreadsheet on my desktop. For as long as this event's going on. Then every day as the event comes in, I'm going to add columns here for the subject of the event, which is the name, the date of the event, the purpose of the event. These things are all required, and the channel of the event. I'm also going to use my custom field that I created for attendance. And I'm going to use my custom field for note. It's not a custom field. It's a built-in Bloomerang field. But essentially what I'm going to do is, as we've sent out the invitations, over the 4 weeks coming up to this event, we've got people responding by telephone, we've got people responding by email, we got people responding with sending us a letter, something back in an envelope. We got people who are using the online form. Now, all the people who use the online form are going to be automatically updating Bloomerang. That's cool. Everybody else, you've got to tell Bloomerang that they responded. And so, rather than every time the phone rings, opening up Bloomerang and opening Kathy Arbuckle's record up and saying, 29, and typing in, typing these things into as a new interaction into her record. So this thing's happening on the last of April, next to last of April. Channel is in person. That's a built-in Bloomerang thing. And here's where you would say attendance is RSVP'd right now. And as people are responding, just fill out this form. And then when the form's over, when the event's over, delete everybody who didn't respond, and then you'll be able to import. In fact, the last thing I do with this This is why I'm really serious about this. If you go to that event that night yourself, your greatest opportunities sometimes to have a really low pressure conversation with somebody whose guard is down. They're not worried that you're going to ask them for $1,000 at a special event, but this is where they may tell you something like, daughter just graduated from Princeton. You want that in Bloomerang. It tells you a couple things. It tells you that they're probably going to be loyal to Princeton. It also tells you that they just stopped paying $60,000 a year in tuition, and they may got some extra money available for donations. So, essentially, what you do with this is, as the event comes up, you add in, and you don't have, here's the thing, you don't have to type all this stuff in. These 4 columns are the same for everything. So everybody who says yes, you just copy and paste. Then when the event's over, you've been able to remark, attendance was yes, change the RSVP to yes, or to no-show. And then you file, save as. Now we've saved this in my desktop. You want this actually to import into Bloomerang. You want it to be a CSV, delimited file. And you've got the record. You've got the file that you go into Bloomerang. Back into Bloomerang. Imports. And you would create an import for the what we're creating here is actually, we're not creating constituents, we're not creating a note, we're creating interactions. Date, subject, purpose, and channel, plus a note. And then you would go ahead and upload upload the file that we just worked on and do the import. It's 203. Can't really, I'm not going to go through the time. It'll take a few minutes for that to all process. But essentially what that allows you to do then is it allows you to, everybody who RSVP'd to your event using one of your forms has automatically been recorded in Bloomerang as somebody who they're going to have a timeline note that they've done, that they've RSVP'd, and it's going to move their engagement level from cool to warm. Now, some people who RSVP through your online form that don't show up, if you're not doing the second step, you're never going to know that they didn't. Bloomerang's not going to have a record that they didn't show up. Still, even if all you do is use the online form, it's a great way to simplify your life and be adding important information to your individual constituents' records. But if you do the other step that I talked about, where you are keeping that Excel spreadsheet for the people who respond by email, telephone, or direct mail, and then import it all in, that's what's really going to be giving you the opportunity for this engagement level function. It's going to be causing your recent timeline activity to be showing that the people came, even if they didn't do it by responding online. And it's going to be collecting all that other great information about who just had a daughter graduate from Princeton and now has an extra $60,000 a year to give to charity. And that's what I wanted to cover today. I'm going to let you all go. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you in another Bloomerang Academy soon. Ciao.